Going to call this meeting to order. As a reminder, we are being recorded, so I ask that as you are speaking and recognize that you will utilize your microphone so that you can be captured. You will hit the man or the person that has like the little echo voice, and that will be able to give your microphone sound. So just want to thank everyone for coming. We know this is a busy time. And our city has yet again experienced some issues, of course, with weather and tornadoes. So for those of you all that have been affected, we continue to think about you and hope all goes well sooner rather than later. Just to really get appreciation to our providers. I'm not sure if all the time, I know that there can oftentimes be comments about things that we don't, do well, but just being a part of some of the communications around our emergency response over the weekend, I will say kudos to the Office of Homeless Services. I know April and I were communicating on the phone early Sunday morning, just trying to make sure that we were covering the areas that had been impacted. And even, oftentimes as we are doing the work ourselves, we are experiencing our own difficulties because I'm like, well, I just got power because I am near where Madison and Community Baptist Church is. So just continue to keep that community in your thoughts as well. But April was like, well, I don't even know if the outreach workers can make it, but they were trying to get through the different areas so that they could make sure response was given. Councilwoman Jennifer Gamble also working hard out. I know Saturday night, just patrolling the area to see what was needed as well. And then we must remember our shelters. I know Room in the Inn contacted Martina on Sunday and understanding how congregations were impacted, which then impacted their ability to serve, but how they were there making sure to triage so that we were making sure people, or really specifically them, making sure that people were still having a place to go, whether that would end up being the Nashville Rescue Mission or the Overflow Shelter. So we know Metro Social Services was also a huge part in this, as well as the Nashville Rescue Mission and just the many numerous other agencies that stepped in. So oftentimes people don't think about those are the times the most people are off the clock, but yet and still people were answering phones, were available in the midst of all of that. So deep appreciation, and to our knowledge, we did not lose anyone who was experiencing homelessness. So I think our next, or just as a thought, an advocacy around this city is that what are we doing with some of these mobile homes and the dangers that they present. So again, thank you all so much for your rapid response and just giving up even your time in the midst of other things that are going on. We want to make sure that we are also just remembering to be responsive during this time of season and know that for some it's not a good time of season just because of different feelings and emotions that it may evoke. So just be kind in your interactions and kind to the people that we serve, and think about just the varying degrees of what people may have that are going on. So with that being said, I will move forward in the roll call today. And when I call your name, if you have a conflict of interest, if you could identify that at the time of your name being called, that would be most appreciated. Stephen Handy.
Present, conflict.
Liz Mallard.
Present, no conflict.
Deirdre Childress. Alex Smith. Jamie Villegas. Catherine Knowles.
Present, no conflict.
Xadria Inslee. Deanna Allen Robb. I am present, no conflict. Kenitha Patterson.
Present, no conflict.
Indian Pungarcher. Freddie Vakersel. Jordan Hoffman.
Present, no conflict.
Courtney Johnston.
Present, no conflict.
John Rutherford.
Present, no conflict.
And thank you. I'm sorry, those were our council persons. Ashley Horton.
Present, no conflict.
Laura Ferguson Mims.
Present, no conflict.
Wendell Seagroves.
Present, no conflict.
Rico X. Adam Hansen.
Present, no conflict.
Tom Turner. And then I know the staff that are here are April Calvin and Susie Tomey. Did I miss anyone?
Tracy Pekovich, present, no conflict.
Okay. We do not have any public comments or action items at this point, and what we want to move forward in our agenda to take a moment to remember those that were who have lost their lives and were experiencing unsheltered homelessness during the month of November. So I will read their names, and then afterwards we will have a brief moment of silence to remember these lives. Denise Gypsy Gagnon, Michelle Thais, Ruth Thomas, Gregory Carter, Tamara Savikas, Safeldin Hamad, Carmika Worthington, Andrew Matthew Nuzo, Mary Strawberry Oldham, and Donna Pardue. If we could just take a moment in remembrance of these lives. Thank you all. You have before you and were in receipt via email the November Homelessness Planning Council minutes. At this time, I will entertain any additions or edits to the minutes. Are there any updates? Okay, hearing none, we will move forward in our agenda.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
if we're talking about minutes, I do have a couple updates.
Okay.
I would like the record to reflect on the section talking about roadway.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Yes, Madam Chair, in regards to the minutes, I would like to have the record reflect under the question answer section in the discussion of the roadway residents. That what the park referred to is the residents who came from Brookmead Park.
Okay, thank you. Were there any other noted corrections, edits? Okay, hearing none, thank you. We will move forward with our report from the Office of Homeless Services Director, Ms. April Calvin.
Good morning, everyone. You should have in your package a lot of literature there. We have thanks to Harriet Wallace, our PIO, we have the first of its kind, a nice newsletter with really great updates. If you have any recommendations in the future for things that you would like to see in our newsletter, please send them to Raquel. Say your last name, Raquel Delahegua. Yeah, so in looking at this, I just want to highlight, you'll see on the second page, first page, the back of the first page, We have a lot of new staff, which we're excited for. Some housing navigators that will actually help our community with connecting people and the vouchers that the agencies have helped them to achieve and acquire, and our coordinated entry and MDHA. It's a whole collaborative process. So I want to make sure to give everyone credit for that. But our housing navigators to really help with finalizing the last step to housing for them. We have Dr. Trotter here. He is our new AD of programs. He's sitting there quietly, silent, very silent, but deadly, hopefully. Just kidding. So we have Dr. Talley. She is not here today. She had to join us. She's watching via stream. She is the new COC manager and CE manager. Thank you. She's the new CE manager. And then we also have our shelter manager here. She helps with some of the emergency crisis that we experience as a city as it relates to our unhoused population. So we're excited to have her. I'm sure there's more that I just don't want to go into great detail, but a lot of great stuff here. We have some really fabulous QR codes that you can hover over to sign up if you want to help with volunteering for the pit count and a lot of other things that are on the very back page there. Hannah, our data guru, her data's in here. We'll figure out a way to coordinate that in here and or with her report as well. So this was the very first one. Just don't want you to feel like you're getting the same information twice. Also, you'll see the ARPA report that's in this package. This is what we typically present to Metro Council once a month, and this one is for last month because we have not presented to Metro Council for December yet. So this is November's report. A lot of great data there. It shows all of the great work that's going on in the homes of people that are newly housed and some of the newly developed housing units that are coming online. I do want to highlight, I think there's some confusion about if we turn to page 6 in that report, the numbers are at the very bottom and they're very faint. Page 6, it's the third page, but the back of the third page. There's a little confusion. I think that people, when we applied for the 25 million affordable gap loan, that 25 million lives with MDHA. MDHA is the one that RFPs it out. We initially thought we wanted to get at least 80 to 100 dedicated units of affordable housing. That would mean dedicated to this population. Also understanding that they may have a voucher subsidy and support services as well. So they've completed 2 rounds. They're working on their 3rd round of funding there, and there's 73. So from 80 to 100, I think we're doing pretty good when there's still a lot more funds out there to be RFP'd out, right? So, but the most important number there is the 73 is great because that's what's dedicated to people experiencing homelessness. But the most important number there for me is the 681 units. So an additional 681 units are coming online that are considered affordable housing, not just the 73 that is dedicated to our scope of work. So that means even if they have a Section 8 voucher or if they're 0 to 30% of the AMI, they still qualify for that 681. Just want to make sure that that language speaks clear to everyone in the community to understand it's not just the 73 units that were brought on by those funds. A couple of other things to highlight. Cold weather shelter, Metro Social Services has been doing a fabulous job there. There has been a couple of instances where they had to actually Narcan a couple of individuals. Everyone is doing well. Out of 9 days of sheltering, they have averaged 177 people out of 9 days of sheltering. And so typically, maybe by late December, I'll have Metro or I'll have the Nashville Rescue Missions numbers and Room in the Inn numbers. And that's what we look at to see if we have enough shelter beds in our community on extremely cold weather nights. But also, I think Shelter Committee reviewed some shelter data because they were under the assumption that we needed more shelter beds. And I think in reviewing that data, working closely with Hannah and the other service providers, reviewing that data, it looks like we're always hovering around 85% utilization rate. So it does mean that we still have capacity in our community. Couple of other things, December 16th, it's not actually on your agenda, but these for upcoming important dates, and that's this Saturday. December 16th is the Homeless Memorial, and that's where we show honor to those that lost their lives while experiencing homelessness. So if you're available, it will be at the riverfront from I think 8 or 8:30, but I can get you the exact date and time and send that information out. So a lot more stuff going on. I do want to make sure you all are fully aware, the prioritization team. So I'll back up a little bit. There is an encampment strategy. The shelter committee wanted to review that strategy. There was a survey that went out that, when two people get together from a committee to draft a survey without input, I'll just stop there, right? So I think that there was a survey that went out, and I think that the shelter committee is going to review our strategy. It's a year old, so we, like any other policy and procedure that we have, we would want to update it. The prioritization team had already identified the next camp by vote, and in voting, they have noticed the Hermitage camp to be the next camp to operate under the housing surge. And so we're working on logistics, working on finalizing the date, and ensuring that we have enough housing options for everyone. I want you all to know, as a department, we are committed to, if we are going to do a housing surge in a camp, that we would have enough units of housing opportunities available for everyone in that camp. There's 32 to 35 people there, and we always plan for a little bit more just in case others was to show up while we're in that space. We will make sure that there's services deployed there throughout the holidays and beginning again in the new year. So just want you all to know you'll see some information as it relates to that. And I think that's it for today. But if you have any questions about any of the literature that you received, then make sure to give me an email or a call. Thanks. Or any questions, I guess.
So I'm looking over the data here from the interim housing funding, and I'm noticing, I hate to beat the dead horse on this one, but I'm noticing a pattern of a kind of a, of falling behind of the Salvation Army interim housing site versus the Community Care Fellowship, and if there were any kind of data that we have to correspond to why this is happening.
Is there a certain data point that you're referencing when you say falling behind?
So in August of 23, and on our interim gap housing report, the Salvation Army had served 82 people and it exited 18, with the average stay of 172 days. At our meeting last month, we were presented with 82 people served and 25 people exited. We're now, with this month's report, and I see 101 people served and only 32 exited, with an average stay now at 196 days. We're approaching the 1 year mark of the closure of Brookmead Park. And I feel that, and after talking with many people who are staying there, I feel there are a lot of deficiencies in what's going on, and I feel that we really need to take a look to see what needs to be done to try to turn things around there.
I appreciate that, and I think we talked a little bit about that, Jamie. And I recommend that you actually go to the program, visit with the program. I think they're serving some of the hardest to serve. And Freddie's not here, so I don't really want to speak on his programming. But as far as my department is concerned, because we do fund that program, we're heavily involved in the services that are going on, and even pushing and pulling when need be. But I would recommend reaching out to Freddie Varkasol. Well, actually, you are on the Homeless Planning Council, so I'm sure Metro Council would not advise me to advise you to reach out to Freddie Varkasol, but maybe Captain Canning, you could probably easily speak with him. He is the leader there, but definitely we're watching that. I want you to know that as well. We're watching that and having some of the tough conversations. I think Freddie said the last time when he was here, when you're serving the hardest to serve, Some may not remember their mom's maiden name. It's difficult to get some documents. Definitely, they are not going to be exited without housing and housing options. So that's not a concern of mine. I mean, unless they choose to leave.
Yeah, I mean, I can completely appreciate, that the Homeless Service is keeping an eye on the situation. I have visited the site several times and noted the conditions there, and I do think it is worth a harder look.
Any other questions or comments? All right, thank you. Moving forward to Susie Katomi, MDHA Collaborative Applicant.
Good morning. 3 things that I wanted to cover this morning in terms of the collaborative applicant. Number one, I guess everybody here knows that the collaborative applicant was designated in the vote in November at the COC General Membership Meeting. And not surprisingly, the Office of Homeless Services is going to be taking on that role. So I will be working on that transition and training staff. We are having a day-long retreat. That's not like on the islands or anything like that. It's going to be down to brass tacks and lots of fun to outline the tasks ahead and to just get all our ducks in a row and get a timeline together so that we understand what that timeline looks like and get that timeline out to you all so that you know what that transition time is going to look like as well. That's the 4th item. The point in time count, or the PIT count, is going to be held Thursday night, January 25th. We've rustled up a number of you, and there are about 100 volunteers that are going to be counting that night on roughly 25 teams throughout Davidson County. We have a surplus of volunteers, actually. So if you haven't signed up, there's no need for additional volunteers at this point. Thank you to all of you who have volunteered, and also particularly to staff at the point in time subcommittee meetings who have been working really hard on organizing logistics for the count. We have a number of training sessions coming up. We are going to have training for the team leads this Friday at 10 at MDHA. All volunteers are going to be welcome to a virtual training, which will be going on January 11th. We also have a Narcan specialist, ROPS specialist, regional overdose prevention specialist, Andrea Hancock, who is going to do 2 training sessions about administering Narcan or naloxone. That they are in January, and I'm hoping to not only invite all volunteers that are involved with the count, but I'll probably send that out to the listserv as well, because any of you all can be trained, and if you're interested, I welcome you to join one of those 2 sessions. We've got Nathan, who is here from the Mental Health Co-op, who's going to be speaking later, but he's been working really hard as the chair of that committee. And the subcommittee meets this Friday and will then take a holiday. And then in January, every Friday until the count, they'll be meeting at MDHA at 11:30. You're welcome to attend if you'd like. Hannah at Office of Homeless Services has been working hard on the sheltered count. And so what I'm focusing on is the unsheltered count that night. There's a mobile app on everybody's phones that will be used to survey folks who are found and awake. And then the idea is to count as many of the folks who are sleeping outdoors that night as possible. We're also doing a push to count homeless youth that may be found that night and working with Oasis Center and Launchpad on those methodologies. So that's been kind of like in the front of my mind here. Also going on is a lot of work with the Governance Charter Committee to revise and review the charter that guides operations of the continuum of care. They have been focusing as of late, they met yesterday and worked hard on expanding the grievance procedures in that document and on the process for formalizing a process for both evaluating and designating the 3 major roles in the continuum of care. That would be the collaborative applicant, the coordinated entry lead, and the homeless management information systems lead. Lastly, the continuum of care funding awards are going to be announced at some point. One never knows. The deadline this past year was the end of September. So October, November, they've had like almost a quarter at HUD to review all of these applications that come in. But I'm thinking Christmas, perhaps, more likely sometime in January. But when those awards are announced, I'll let everyone know. Thank you. And happy holidays to everybody.
Thank you, Susie. We are moving to updates. We will have our HMIS, which is the Homelessness Management Information Systems monthly update by Hannah. Hannah, do me a favor, since we're being recorded. If you could come to this empty seat and speak into the mic, that would be most appreciated.
3,037 people experienced homelessness in Nashville in the month of November. As we can see on here, that's a big increase over the previous month. There was a higher than usual inflow into coordinated entry in November, but also most of that increase comes from the opening of winter shelters, particularly Room in the Inn saw, I think, something like 300 unique people already just in the month of November. Of those people, 230 households were families and 2,358 households were adult-only households. And over the past 12 months, 7,847 unique people have experienced homelessness in Nashville. Moving down, as we can see, there were 619 new entries, new people who are entering HMIS this month. So that was 20% of the people who experienced homelessness. So that is a big increase over what we've seen usually in that section. That's a lot of new people entering the system. And below that, I also added something you all asked for last month, so hopefully this is helpful, which is that for the people experiencing homelessness in November, people who were living outdoors have been experiencing homelessness for an average of 3 years and 11 months, and people who live in shelters have been experiencing homelessness for an average of 3 years and 7 months. I'm flipping over to the next page. In November, 49% of people who were experiencing homelessness in Nashville were Black and 41% were white. And 57% of people experiencing homelessness were men and 42% were women. I'm going to keep moving through. On the next page, we're looking at housing. So 195 people experiencing homelessness were permanently housed in November. That was in 99 households, 31 were families, and 68 adult-only households. And over the past 12 months, 1,884 people have been housed from homelessness in Nashville. The average length of time from the moment someone entered HMIS to when they exited to permanent housing was 177 days for the people who were housed in November. And the top 3 ways that people were moving into permanent housing were rapid rehousing, which was 26 households, housing with no ongoing subsidy, which was 23 households, and VASH vouchers, which was 12 households, which is really high for VASH, so that's something to celebrate. That's permanent supportive housing for veterans. Finally, on the back page, in November, 68% of the people who were housed were Black and 23% were white, and 54% of people who were housed were men and 45% were women. And I highlighted a lot of agencies because we had a lot of agencies housing bigger than normal numbers of households this month, which is something to celebrate. So the Salvation Army housed 19 households, Operation Stand Down housed 18 households, Safe Haven Family Shelter housed 13 households, Oasis Center and Room in the Inn both housed 9 households. And that is the monthly report. Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you. I don't remember if I asked for this last time. I think I talked about it. When we are quantifying people that are exiting, I don't see it on here, but maybe it's on here, and there's lots of colors. You can point it out. Are we identifying if they're leaving to permanent housing or if they're leaving to go back out to the street? I know of 2 that went back out to the street from one of. Anyway, do we have that separated out? Because I think that's important to know if they're leaving on their own accord for whatever reason, or if we're being successful in moving them on to permanent housing.
So this report, that second section, is all about people who are only, the last 2 pages, only about people who are exiting to permanent housing.
Okay.
And that's success. We do know about, generally, we don't exit people to return to homelessness. We continue to engage with them in the community and provide services. So they're still in the system, even if they are out on the street or in shelter. So usually the other main way that people are exiting the system is they have disappeared and we don't know what happened to them. So I can next time try to provide some context about sort of the other exits beyond housing, if that's helpful.
Yeah, I think it would be helpful. Thank you. I appreciate that.
For the 12 veterans that found permanent supportive housing, was there something that opened for those 12 that was new, or?
I don't actually know, but I'm going to look at Jaha to see if she has any special insight into why that was a big month.
Yes, so thank you for asking that. I am one of the supervisors in the VA homeless program as my primary job. And one of the things that has happened for us is that with Glastonbury Woods, we were able to get 10 of those units pre-inspected through MDHA. And so that means that once the person has voucher in hand, we're able to more rapidly move them into those housing units. And then just also, we have a lot of oversight, so we are really working hard to make sure we're getting our veterans housed. But I think the biggest piece is the pre-inspection of the units at Glastonbury Woods.
And I just have a follow-up question to that.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. Pastor Handy has had his hand up and 3 people have spoken before him. So if we could try to find a way so that we're recognizing people in the order in which they're trying to speak, that would be appreciated. Please, Pastor Handy.
I'm used to being last, so I'm okay with that. A few questions. Hannah, thank you for this data. On page 4, where it talks about the top agencies, where is the mobile navigation data?
So that would be people housed by Community Care Fellowship. I don't highlight every agency here, just the top ones, but I do know how many people were housed. I don't know off the top of my head, but if you wanted, I could go find out.
No, you're good.
And in that ARP packet with about the $50 million, there's additional data about the mobile housing navigation centers in there and where people are exiting to.
Okay, kind of 1B, the increase in unhoused people, do we know if that's existing people in Nashville or people who are transitioning from other places outside of Nashville?
So we don't track where people came from, although we did talk about that last month, and I have started a conversation with our coordinated entry team to see if that would be something useful to start tracking. Generally, studies find that people experience homelessness in their own communities and do not come into other places, most people. And I have not looked at it for this month because it would have taken more time than I had so far, but I can look and see, we have information about, are these people experiencing homelessness for the first time, or have we seen them before and they're returning to homelessness? So that is something that's available.
Okay, thank you.
I want to wait my turn. I just have a follow-up question about the pre-inspection of the units, because that seems like a fabulous practice. And so I think I'm just curious. We've had a number of families lately who got their vouchers and then, have moved into units that have been horrible. And so I'm just curious, do you have, is there like a tip sheet or can you at some point share some information about that pre-inspection process?
Sure, that's with collaboration with MDHA. I will say most of the time with those units, they need to have been in properties that are already typically inspected by MDHA. And one of the things is that once the apartment is inspected, no one can touch it until they're ready to move in. So that creates some difficulty, but I will say this has been a year in the making. But definitely we can talk more about that because it does help move the process along. Tracy, did you have something?
My question was along what was already asked, so I'm good.
Anyone else? Sure, Council.
Thank you. My question relates to the numbers related to veterans experiencing homelessness. When a person experiencing homelessness is identified as a veteran, is there any connection made from that point to the Metro Office of Veteran Services?
I'm sorry, can you repeat what office you're asking about?
Is there any connection made to the Metro's Office of Veteran Services? We have 4 veteran service officers that work out of Operation Stand Down. And that's just where they're located. They don't work for Stand Down, they work for Metro. And their primary role is to connect veterans to benefits that may be available to them. And some of those benefits that are available to veterans may help that veteran who's experiencing homelessness, move on from that circumstance. And so I'm wondering if there is a relationship or connection once a person experiencing homelessness is identified as a veteran, is there a connection made to that office within Metro?
Absolutely. So one of the things is that the VA funds through our grants and per diem and so we help fund the Operation Stand Down Veteran Service Center as well as transitional housing. So when we identify those veterans, we do definitely refer them to the service center, and we work closely with Sean Moudon and his team. But we also have a VBA representative that's specific to our veterans experiencing homelessness. So we are able to also link them up through that to look at benefits as well.
And just as a follow-up, I'm wanting to just make sure that there is an understanding that there is an actual Metro agency that is working out of Operation Stand Down, just that is their location. Again, not that they're employed by Stand Down, they're employed by Metro. There are 4 of them. And so I'm wondering the connection there, and if they're brought in, if they're notified, if they have this data, are they aware of the number of veterans who are experiencing homelessness, and are they working directly to connect them to the benefits that are available to them?
So what I want to suggest is that you speak to Sean after that, because I don't want to dare speak about the particulars of how they operate their service center. But I will also make sure our team is aware of that service as well. I believe they do, but it definitely helps to make sure nothing can be reiterated too many times.
Okay, thank you for that. And I was just more or less asking because I just wanted to make sure that that's not something that's being overlooked.
We definitely look at those benefits because we want to make sure they can afford to maintain their housing. But thank you for that information. I will definitely also make sure we're working with Stand Down to make sure that connection is being made with those VSOs.
Thank you.
Alex?
That's so weird. Hannah, I got 2 questions. You might not have the answers for my questions, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Do you have any record of young people that's graduating out of group homes that's entering the homelessness? And part 2, do you have an idea from the sheriff's office of how many people that is being released in the wintertime that's instantly going straight to being homeless?
I have slight answers for both of those questions. I don't know off the top of my head about young people exiting group homes, but we do, when people enter homelessness and enter HMIS, we track where they came from. So I could go find that information, depending on what kind of group home it is, what category it would be in. Like we track people exiting foster care who are entering homelessness, things like that would be available. So I could look for it for you. And then the sheriff's office has started sending me their daily list of people who are leaving for homelessness. I haven't done much with it yet, but we do have it so that we can start looking into that.
And we have the representative that does that, Dr. Inslee. Do you want to speak? Was there anything specific, Alice? Because she is the person that sends each of us a list. Like we get one for veterans, we get one for individuals.
Well, I always bring it up when it comes to the wintertime because I know there's usually a good percentage that's exiting, but also there's a good percentage that's entering because it's a normal habit for them to do something, to get locked up for roughly 3 months to stay somewhere for the wintertime. So it's always very curious for me to see like how's that really navigated, especially when they are being released in the wintertime and they have no place to go.
Thank you, Alex. One thing I do want to bring up, that's a very good point. What we have been doing is allowing our discharge planners who are contracted to work with individuals in our facility to meet with everyone that is becoming discharged in the next 30 days or more. And they try to make connections as far as what that looks like going in the community. We also have a transition from jail to community division that works closely with that population as well. What I've done recently is giving Hannah some of the data or the information that will show who is in our facility. What I can also look at as far as current, those that are going to be released in the next few weeks or months. So that's something I can look at sharing. I will work with some other individuals to see what data that I can also send. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Hannah. Appreciate it. Moving forward with our new business, we will have an update on our HUD TA Cloudburst engagement by April. Calvin.
So you have a document in your package that kind of spells out some of this. On the front side of that document, it's discussing the level of technical assistance that's actually in our community. Cloudburst, which they will be working with us on overall COC structuring and planning. They were a part of this community about a year ago, and they had 4 strong recommendations on the back that we'll talk about. And we moved forward with some of that, so they're wanting to come off pause to continue this work. Built for Zeros, working with families and veterans, and then the National Alliance to End Homelessness, which is going to be working with our Consumer Advisory Board. On the back, there's some recommendations of what we're gonna move forward with Cloudburst. 2022, on the left, you see their recommendations. They recommended that we have a strong encampment strategy. They recommended that we move the collaborative applicant, create some bylaws for our charter, and then downsize the Homeless Planning Council and the number of committees that we actually have. We have over 15 committees here in our community, so it's a lot of work that's going on. You can see the success. We, definitely was able to highlight to them the encampment strategy and that we moved forward with that and had closed 3 locations, and moving the collaborative applicant, as Susie just stated earlier, that is in process, and then creating bylaws. We have a charter committee that's working really, really hard at strengthening our charter and adding some bylaws. And then the downsizing of the Homeless Planning Council. I'm not sure if you all know the history of 2 individual councils, the COC Council and Metro Homeless Commission, kind of combined. I don't have the data in front of me, but maybe 5 years ago. I'm sure there's some historians in the room that are better at reciting that than me. And I think initially it was just to combine the 2 and move forward. So there's an ordinance that has 25 members on this board, and HUD TA said that is, pretty large and hard to manage sometimes. And so not only that, I think the largest focus that they really wanted to focus on was the number of committees. There's a lot of committees where sometimes there's not a lot of work going on. They had some strong recommendations on how to combine some of those committees so that the work can be strengthened. And even thinking of that, like I think Hannah has already worked super hard and diligently at combining a data committee and a HMIS oversight committee with somewhat of what's going on with the PIT count, right? So I think all of that kind of lives together. So when we think of data, it should all be in one committee. And what we realized that there was maybe 2 or 3 people attending regularly, which was really spreading people super thin and probably overburdening staff as well. Someone shared with me the other day they can't come to all of our committees because they're too busy getting the work done. So just want to make sure that we highlight some of that. But over here to the right, you'll see 2024, their focus. As I stated earlier, we have a new CE manager. I know that you all know and love Sally. Prior to her leaving, we were working on moving away from the VI SPDAT. There was a stakeholder group that was actively involved in working on that, and she just couldn't really find the time to continue to move it forward. So what we're going to do with our new coordinated entry manager with our AD of planning and research is to reconvene those stakeholder groups so that we can get back at that conversation. But HUD-TA is definitely focusing on that with us. And then there's some HMIS and HIPAA concerns that as we look to fund some agencies that receive COC funds or Metro funds. And then the seamless process of transitioning the collaborative applicant. They're going to be heavily involved in those things. And some other things that I haven't really talked about is the domestic violence. HUD has been really great at giving bonus rounds of funding for domestic violence. Seems like the last 3 years, probably. Yeah. And so we have agencies here in Nashville that's conducting domestic violence work, but may not be a victim service provider agency. So want to make sure that they are well equipped to handle that population and provide the services that they need. And then there's some special things like emergency transfer plan if the victim is in a public housing location and the abuser may know their address. So there's some other things that we need to work on as a community to strengthen that domestic violence work here in Nashville. And then also PSH. I have not chatted with you all in a little bit about the PSH unit that's coming online early first quarter. So we'd say February or March. There was an RFP process that was open through MDHA. We need 2 things to happen real quick. One is we're beyond that point. One is a property manager. So if you know of any property management agencies, companies, organizations that's looking to manage a 90-unit building, brand new, it's really shiny, right? We have to really talk it up. There's an RFP that's open. And then also the second part is support services. We really are looking for an agency to embed themselves in that program or in that building, so that it's truly a PSH and providing some intense services there. So the RFP is open. It's actually on MDHA's webpage. If you know of a service provider, that it would be helpful if they could build Medicaid a little bit, just because it would help offset the cost of some of the case management, stuff like that. And HUD-TA is really great help to me as we are onboarding new staff. And this department is growing. I don't know if you've ever seen a Office of Homeless Services with 30 employees. We're super excited. Our team is really stoked to be such a full, robust team. I know that some expressed a little bit of concern because our AD of Finance and Planning is no longer with us. I just want you all to know that because we work for such a large metro department, there will be a seamless process, as seamless as it can be, a seamless process with making sure invoices and things like that are paid on time. So nothing to worry about there. That's it for me.
Thank you. Any questions for April? All right, next we will have our, yes, ma'am.
I'm just observing with this, what we just spoke about or what April just spoke about. It's clearly saying the Consumer Advisory Board here, and that was brushed over. I didn't hear anything about it. So just want to know more about our role, because a lot of times we're brushed over, but we're the most important piece in all of this work, and a lot of what we do on the ground with our lived experience being an enhanced asset in the community. We know what's going on the ground and all the people that are being missed. We know encampments, we know that, but it's so much more going on behind the scenes. And just as the chair, honestly, I could be real and say, I can't say how any other chair is treated, but I don't receive that I'm being treated equitably and heard. Or anytime you see this paperwork, you'll see how important the cab is. And I was going through like the different governance and the CLC booklet we got for orientation. And it clearly states throughout everything that we hear, every meeting I've been at, it has been said how important and needed the cab is. And again, we're just kind of like brushed under the rug, or when you come to seeing it here, or in some instances, it has been where we're supposed to present this, or even with us coming online, I don't know how many of you all even knew we were operational again. So to me, that's an issue. It doesn't feel good to be brushed over like that, I'm gonna be honest. And the communication of what, in my role, I have access to or not. The transparency is not there. We could say things are going great all day long, and things might be going great, but not for the cab. So I want to say that today, address it. I said it a year ago. We were sitting right in this room where it was it's a technical divide and it's a lived experience divide. Bringing that together ends homelessness for me. And being heard and not being treated a type of way or anything. And I'm being very nice about what I'm saying right now without putting it out there what's going on. And like I heard earlier about grievance processes, that's something I asked about when I first got here as well. So I would like to have the same support as any other chair gets to operate properly, especially being the most important thing out there. It's a lot of the work that needs to be done in the community that we can be doing and we are willing to do, we have been begging to do. But what happens is you'll get some outside consultant, pay them, make sure they're paid, when the same cannot happen for us. And I do not think that is right. It is not equitable. It is not ethical. And I just wanted to make sure to say that. Thank you.
Thank you, Kanitha. I do remember about this time when there was the concern was raised about CAB, and at that point, we did not have a chair. CAB was not meeting, and so that did happen. We are now, working to we have a designated staff person that will be working more closely with you all, and so we hear your concerns, and definitely, I know as a board chair, hey, I understand. I had a very rough first year. And so perhaps, yeah, so excuse me if I can relate. And I will say that this year has been a year of more focus administratively and able to really begin to move some of those pieces. And so what I can offer is sincere apologies that was not a priority from day one. And as we move forward in this new year and we further down on the agenda, look at things with the board retreat, we definitely want to make sure we are supporting that as best we can. And just to try to meet your needs. And so it is noted. And I also know, it is frustrating. So there are things that are being put in place, and we will continue to work on it. So, and I do think we hear you. Jamie?
First off, Kanitha, I want to thank you for your chairmanship of the Consumer Advisory Board. I agree, it is a very important committee. Especially when we are, facing, issues with some of the interim housing sites. The Consumer Advisory Board is definitely a board that needs to be operational at full capacity to make sure that people who have grievances against those sites and any other issues while in homelessness have a platform to go to. So I would definitely want to support you and the work that you're doing, and whatever we can do to give you that support, I'm all in support for.
Yes, Kanitha.
Sorry, our meeting is tomorrow at 10 a.m. at 600 Woodland Street. It's the last meeting for the year. We're doing planning. We are the National Alliance to End Homelessness liaison. I did speak with him. He's going to be present with us. Even though his contract is not ready yet, however, he's still attending to make sure he's aware of what's going on as well with us, and I appreciate that. And what was I gonna say about it? 600 Woodland Street, 10 a.m. Oh, we'll be next year, to my knowledge, we're supposed to move to the contributor after the breakfast. So just to let everybody know, where we are. I want to let people be able to find us.
Okay. Anything else related? All right, Grant, you are next on the agenda. I know at the last meeting, someone wanted an update, which I think is a community we would love to hear about the challenge with the families, the 100-day challenge. So Grant will provide us with that.
All right, yes, good morning, everybody. I'm Grant Winter, Chief Program Officer at Safe Haven Family Shelter. Good to be with you this morning and be able to share more about the exciting news around the 100-day challenge. So over the past 100 days, Nashville embarked on something pretty significant that I hope we'll be able to look at as a turning point in ending family homelessness in the city. So as I kind of stated at the front end, over 30 providers came together to reach an audacious goal of housing 100 families in 100 days. And I'm beyond excited to announce that we met and surpassed that goal, and we housed 120 families in that 100-day challenge. So very excited to announce that. Thank you to Hannah for pulling that data for me this morning. So through our partnership with the Community Solutions Built for Zero team, we were able to very effectively collaborate and strategize in preparation and throughout the challenge. In addition to our core group of stakeholders that met weekly, action groups met regularly throughout the challenge to communicate and brainstorm ways to break down barriers and create needed changes to our processes and systems to increase the number of families we were able to serve. And I just want to highlight some key achievements that I feel like we were able to achieve throughout the challenge. We were able to create a new priority category for families who are considered long stayers at shelters, which is considered 3 months or longer in this current state. They were given priority for a rapid rehousing referral and also a housing choice voucher referral. And so this helps create more throughput in our shelters and helps make sure a family doesn't get stuck in the shelter system just because they have a low score on the VI spit-out assessment. We adjusted the way we do our case conferencing on a weekly basis at our care coordination meetings. That has created more interagency collaboration and avenues to help housing navigators overcome barriers to housing their families. A group of rapid rehousing providers met regularly to talk about best practices in supporting families and make sure that families are receiving equitable care no matter what agency that they're working with. Our landlord engagement group aligned with the Low Barrier Housing Collective and significantly increased the distribution of landlords and available units to navigators to match families to those units. We created a flexible funding source that helps speed up the housing process and help pay for needed costs. And we're able to also use that to help create some incentives that celebrated the hard work of our frontline staff who are doing helping families successfully move into housing. We emphasize the importance of getting families all their documents and increase the tracking of when families are document ready in HMIS. And we were able to create an increased awareness overall in our community around family homelessness so that it's talked about more and there's more of an understanding about what that means and what's going on in our community. So we're extremely proud of the work that we've accomplished over the past few months, and we know this is only the start though. We have seen how successful we can be at addressing issues when we create opportunities for ongoing communication and collaboration and put our energy and resources to meet the task. We know the need is greater than ever before right now. There are over 500 families still on the by name list. We know there's a shortage of shelter beds for families in our community. We know there are thousands of school-aged children still experiencing housing instability in our school system. We've already started conversations about what comes next. And we'll be holding a celebration in January to celebrate the good work and then also be planning for what is to come next and reflect on lessons learned and create plans on our next steps. I encourage everyone to read up on, we were able to get some good press coverage through the Tennessean and local news stations. We were able to do a This Is Nashville show on WPLN last week. We know that one of the most reliable predictors of if a person will experience homelessness as an adult is if they experience it as a child. so that we know that preventing and ending family homelessness not only impacts those adults and children, but also significantly impacts our overall community's ability to address and end homelessness for all populations. So we look forward to continuing the work with HPC ongoing and be able to update you on our work. But thank you for the time to share the update and celebrate the work that we've been able to do.
Thank you. Any questions for Grant? All right, kudos to all involved. And I hope we all heard that what this does is interrupt so much generational things that are going on. So with families, it's a huge impact. So thank you for your work, and we look forward to continuing to move the needle on family homelessness. And again, we recognize there is much more work to be done. Next on the agenda is really the board retreat. You all should have received your calendar invitations for that, board members. And then we'll also, of course, get the community notice out closer to time. But it is February 9th from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Lentz Health Center. It's not really center. What is it? Lentz Public Health. And we are working to get that agenda worked on. So we will hopefully have a draft to you all next month. But what we are asking is that board members, if you have specifics, we know CAB is one, but if there are specific board retreat items that you would like for us to cover, if you could email that to Allison Malone and CC April Calvin, that would be most appreciated as we begin working on that agenda. Any questions about the board retreat? Oh. Lentz Public Health Department. Yes. I would say just the Metro Public Health Department, but they have locations. So I've been trying to be mindful to say Lentz, and then I'm saying center, so. Okay. Susie, do you have much else to offer about the point in time count?
No, I don't, but it sort of relates to the board retreat. I'm going to request that in the materials that are given at these meetings, that we spell out the alphabet soup, just on the technical assistance thing. We'll say TA, but it's technical assistance, what the CABS sort of stands for on the back sheet. We have HMIS, DV, VAWA, CE, PSH, COMON, especially for those folks of you, those of you who are new. It just it's mind-boggling, and we dwell in it all the time. You probably have the same thing that happens wherever you're working, but wanted to put that out there. And then the permanent supportive housing RFA, or the request for proposals, those sorts of things I often will send out to the listserv. If you're not getting those sorts of things, you may have like a spam folder that it goes to. So I'd request that you look in there to see if those notices are going to the wrong place, and then whitelisted or whatever it's called. So just those two pieces of information, and I already went over the count. Thanks.
Thanks. And just a reminder, especially to, well, really all board members, you received your binders, and there is a glossary for those terms. And so we will do our best, but I also am a huge proponent of just reminding us to be self-educators as well. So if there are terms, it is in your binder and it is labeled glossary. And so all of those terms are explicitly identified there as well. But we will also work to try to spell those out in the meetings. But if we forget, please remember you have been provided that resource. So now we are going to move forward with Nathan Scarlett and the story of progress, resources, hope. Give us a second just so that we can accommodate folks' utilization of microphones. And thank you, Jamie, for helping to accommodate.
Good morning, everyone. Hey, my name is Nathan Scarlett. I'm the lead outreach specialist with Mental Health Cooperative. So I wanted to give the shared experience of working with Robert Beatty, goes by Beatty, and his significant other, Jennifer, who's not feeling well today, so she's not able to be here. Before I do, I want to mention that I wanted to give thanks to my former supervisors, Kenneth Smith and Julie Bendler, for supporting me in this time and giving me the space to talk and to vent about the frustrations and ongoing difficulties it was to house Robert and Jennifer. So when I first met Beatty and Jennifer, 2018, 2019, they were sleeping on concrete outside and had a blanket and they had a pillow, and I nearly stepped on them as I was doing pit count canvassing. And fast forward to June of 2020, when we were all in the middle of the pandemic, and none of us could go out, and where Open Table was, the village of Glencliff, we were able to go and pick up food boxes every month or every week and deliver it to people in specific areas of the town. So Beatty and Jennifer were in my area of the town to deliver food boxes to, and I built a really good rapport with them. I'm an outreach specialist. I don't like sitting behind a desk and looking at a screen all day, so I loved getting out and meeting with the people. Fast forward to November of the same year in 2020, that was the first time in Nashville we had the rapid rehousing started, and we were able to get Beatty and Jennifer into a rapid rehousing program from November until January of 2022. So during that time, and even before then, I was working with Beatty and Jennifer on obtaining all their housing documents, their ID, social security card, birth certificate, and was able to get all of that besides of Beatty's Tennessee birth certificate. So on Beatty's ID, it says he was born in 1950. So he said he was born in Memphis and he was adopted at birth. So I tried a couple of times to get his birth certificates and was unsuccessful. Even talked with Memphis Vital Records members, was talking with them and trying to just get the birth certificate so they could be eligible for more permanent stable housing. Ultimately was unsuccessful in that, and as I wanted to give thanks to Sarah Franklin, who helped Beatty and Jennifer during the time in the rapid rehousing program as well. So back in January of 2022, the funds for rapid rehousing ended, and they were back out on the streets, and saw them during pit count canvassing again. So gave them a sleeping bag, gave them tent, in the same place that they were when I met them, and lost contact with them for a lot of 2022. They didn't have a phone, so a lot of times people that are living outside, they're just trying to live day by day. So having a charged phone and someone to get in contact with them is difficult to do. So fast forward to March of 2023 this year. So I met with them again. They're still outside in the same area. And I redid everything HMIS, opened them coordinated entry, did a VI SPDAT. But I'm in the same place I was 3 years ago. So what's going to change? In April of the same year, by some divine revelation or something, intervention, whatever you want to call it, Beatty got some newfound information about his birth name and about his birth year. He's actually born in 1952. So if anyone wants to get younger, that's how you do it. And also one point that I left out from last time when I spoke about this was he wasn't born in Memphis. So my frustration and anger towards the Memphis Vital Records, they were actually right. So he was actually born in Morristown, Tennessee, which is a small farming town between Manchester and McMinnville in southeast part of Nashville. So I took that information and we went and got his ID again, and we went to the Vital Records and we got his birth certificate. Thank God, finally, after 4+ years of trying to get this. So at that time in Nashville, the set-aside vouchers were on pause. So we were working on the EHV vouchers, or people that used to be or are already in the rapid rehousing program. So I got with Sally and asked her if Beatty, since Beatty and Jennifer used to be in the rapid rehousing program, if they would be eligible. And then she's said yes. So I finally did the Section 8 application. In June of that year, they got their voucher. And then in July, I was on paternity leave. I had my first daughter, so I was taking care of her. And Officer Chuck Embry, who is outreach, he's with the Office of Partnerships and Outreach and with Metro Police. He did over the phone briefing with Beatty and Jennifer. And then we applied for a unit in September, and the unit failed inspection. And honestly, I wasn't sure if they were going to be approved, just being completely honest, because of the agency's, the property owner's rental policy. It was really 50-50, but they did get approved. And at first, the unit failed inspection. And then on Friday the 13th, October 13th, the landowner where Beatty and Jennifer were said they were in a makeshift shed. They said that they had to leave the unit like today. And so I was doing my best to be an advocate for them can you at least let them stay till Tuesday, because that is their move-in date, October 17. And the landowner was very angry and said that they've been here for 3 years, and you said you've been working with them for 3 years. I don't believe you. It's going to take a miracle to get them housed. And I said, well, sir, believe in miracles, because Tuesday they're going to move in. It's a fact. And so he went on to say that, there are a lot of other unhoused individuals in this, he didn't say it that nicely, in this area. What are you going to do to solve the problem? And I said, sir, it's one person at a time. One person at a time. And so October 17th, they were able to get to Bay and Jennifer into permanent stable housing, finally. And so I wanted to share the experience and the story with all of you all as an encouragement that if any person that's living on the street or in a shelter, if they have a beating heart, if they have breath in their lungs, it doesn't matter what they've done in the past. Everyone in this person's made mistakes, myself included. They deserve a chance for housing. And for Robert and to Jennifer, thank you for trusting in me for so long, and thank you for believing in the Office of Homeless Services Coordinated Entry via SPDAT to be able to pay for your move-in expenses so that you can finally be able to be in housing. And hopefully there's not another day in your life that you'll ever have to sleep outside.
I don't know you people, but I know this man. His soul is good. I'm a grown man finna cry. This man is good. If as a guiding angel, when God say, you ask no man for help, you ask him. And I ask God for help. He brought Nathan into my life. He's a good man. That's all I can say.
Mr. Beatty, thank you for allowing us to just have a glimpse of your story. We know that that's oftentimes hard as well, and we thank you for your vulnerability and willing to let us see as a community the barriers and the trauma of it all. And we hope that at any time that you do need supports, that you know you have a community and a village behind you, and we want to make sure that you and Jennifer maintain your housing. So please do not hesitate to let us know if there are additional needs and supports, and we or to let Nathan know so that he can let us know. I think that part of why this was important is because oftentimes the perception is we are leaving people behind. And I think Nathan clearly talks about, and I know we don't, oftentimes people don't even know the experience that we as providers have had, because not all the time are we transparent if we've had lived experience or poverty or trauma and all of those things, because it's not always most appropriate for us to share that. But what I will say is this, is that as we work as a community, I can imagine Nathan went home many a days defeated, burdened, and also sharing in the struggles of this. And so what I want us to remember is that it's easy to take one glimpse of something and see the black and white and not see the gray. And so what may seem like people being left behind is actually still work, engagement. And even in the midst of people experiencing homelessness, what we as providers are trying to do is and we hope you understand this, is that we recognize your humanity. We see you as the wonderful human being that God has created. And for you and your family to prosper is what our wish is for you. And so to each of you, that is my wish for you all. I hope that you have a safe holiday and that you take good care of yourselves. And so with that being said, we will conclude our December meeting, and I will see you all next year.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.